To the max, baby. Hello, world. I'm Dr. Max, and thank you for joining us today on To the Max podcast, where we have real talk about educational transformation. I'm super excited today to have Sheriff Bobby Kimbrough join us on To the Max podcast, where we're going to discuss school safety and all the things that are involved with that. Sheriff Kimbrough, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. The pleasure's mine for being here.
Thank you. Do you mind sharing a little bit about yourself with myself and the world?
Sure. My name's Bobby Kimbrough. I've been in the sheriff's office for 2 terms now. I spent the last 40 years of my life serving and protecting across this country, and it's a pleasure to be here back home in Forsyth County.
Awesome, thank you. And it's a pleasure to be on To the Max podcast.
Of course.
All right, I like it. So Sheriff Kimbrough, you do a lot of supporting of schools. Let's talk about why you feel it's important to have such a great relationship with schools, and then we're gonna lead into the role that SROs play.
Yeah, so I think that anytime you sit in a place of leadership, it's imperative that you have a relationship with the community that you serve. In other words, you have to have credibility in the community in which you exist in. When you talk about safety in our schools, when you talk about education, I think that education is king. Education is key when we talk about our children. And the only way we can do that is that they're being educated in a safe environment.
So is the Winston now the Winston that you grew up in?
Of course not. I don't want to date myself, but the Winston that I grew up in, busing had just started. The Winston that I grew up in, you could be paddled in school. The educational system that I grew up in, it was a zero tolerance for tomfoolery. And so while the world has changed and school system has evolved, good, bad, or indifferent, depending on what your opinion is. So what I will tell you is that even though it's not the school of yesterday, we have to be prepared for the school of today and tomorrow.
Oh, I like that. So we started off right into asking questions, but let me ask you one that's a fun kind of question. If you were any animal, what would it be and why?
Well, you know what? I thought about that, right? When you were saying it, and I started looking at the Zen garden, and I was thinking to myself, if I could be any animal, I'd probably want to be the king of the jungle, the lion.
I figured you would say that because you want to lead all the people and stuff.
Not necessarily. I think that the lion is a thoughtful animal. It is sort of what is strategic in its movement.
I like that.
And so I think that myself and my training, I've always tried to be strategic in my movement.
That strategy is a big part of what you do.
Exactly.
Yeah. So when you're talking about your strategy, when you deploy SRO officers to schools, what is your expectations of the SRO officers, the school resource officers, and the relationships they have with the students and the staff and the community they serve?
That's a great question. You know, so many times people ask, what is the role of the SRO? So my expectation of the SRO is to be a part of the school. My expectation of them is to get to know the students that they are interacting with, and also provide a safe, non-threatening environment. And so to me, that is the role of the SRO. It's just like insurance. You have it just in case.
So there's an intimidation factor.
By no means.
Right. So you really want them to be a part of the school culture and climate, a fabric like of the school.
It's a must that they become a part of the school spirit, the school climate, because at the end of the day, it is a village, it is a community, and so they have to be a part of that, and the students have to see them as approachable.
That's good.
Because if they're not approachable and they see them as threatening, then the relationship is for naught.
So let me ask you a question. Sure. Do you think that it also builds the capacity of the work that the police and sheriff do outside of school, having those positive relationships in the building?
Of course. There's a correlation between success and relationship. Everything is relationship-based, right? Relationships move the world. Everything in life will fall based on the leadership relationship present, the rise and fall on that. So the stronger the relationship, the stronger the chance of success. So to me, when we talk and we train our SROs, we train them based on relationships.
That's key, because relationships are big in schools.
Facts.
Our first 2 shows were about building positive relationships and social emotional learning, because you're trying to build a community and a culture that transcends beyond the walls of the schools. Because if we build positive citizens in our building, then you have positive citizens in society who are contributing citizens. So I love my SRO officers. I think that,
glad you do.
oh, they're amazing. Thank you so much. We went from one SRO officer to two, and they work really positively. They built really great relationships, even our previous one. And so I think you guys do a really good job of selecting the people to serve the schools. Is there any kind of formula that you use to that?
Of course it is. Of course it is. At some of the schools across the district, there is a higher population of Spanish-speaking students.
Yes.
And so we try to pair SROs that are bilingual. And so we do that intentionally because we want them to be relationable. We want them to experience and be able to relate to those that they're trying to cultivate a relationship with.
I think that's intentional and great. Now, do they do any outside of school mentoring? Like, are they just always doing their business of the badge?
The Forsyth County Sheriff's Office has always been visible in this community when it comes to relationships and mentoring. I've been mentoring even before I got to the Sheriff's Office. 2013 is when we first started Branded for Knowledge. We started at Main Street.
Start who for knowledge?
Branded for Knowledge.
Branded for knowledge, okay.
We started working with Main Street. At the time, Mr. Travis was there. And so that has been a part of the fabric of who I am, is because we want to go somewhere in life, but most of us don't know how to get there.
That's good.
And a mentor is just simply a guide, a scout, or a roadmap. So our SROs perform that same type of mentorship on Saturday mornings. We have a group of kids that we've been mentoring for the last 2-3 years. Last year, our SROs took a group of kids down to Atlanta. We left Atlanta, the Nonviolent Center, went to the Pettus Bridge in Alabama, came back and took that same group to the History Museum in D.C. And so the law enforcement SROs are more than men and women that just show up inside of your schools.
Well, I have a question. Is this common practice for sheriff's offices to do? Is this common practice for sheriffs to pride themselves on relationships and mentoring of the youth?
Well, I can't tell you what other sheriff's officers do across the state, but what I can tell you is that we don't never want to be common at the sheriff's office. We don't ever want to be
common anywhere.
Exactly.
We don't want to be common.
We don't never want to be common or normal.
Extraordinary.
Everything that we do it to the point to where we raise the bar that when people look at it, they say it can't be done again.
I like that. That's good. Well, when we're talking about all of these things, there's a big conversation around to metal detect or not. What is your concept on metal detection, and does it help to ensure safety of schools and students?
Well, here's what I would tell you is that my position has been on metal detectors since when Dr. Harrison was here, Dr. Emery was here, and even down to the current superintendent, Dr. McManus. I believe in metal detectors. Can you get on a plane? Can you go through the airport?
No.
Can you go to a Wake Forest basketball game?
No, you cannot,
Can you go to a Carolina? Can you go anywhere where people are coming together? And here's what I would tell you. The same issues that happen in our communities come inside of our schools.
Daily.
So why wouldn't you want to put some type of preventive measures in place to prevent that?
So what I'm hearing you say, metal detecting won't stop or deter, but it could prevent.
Of course.
Right?
Of course.
So we need to be proactive and not reactive.
In the world of law enforcement, anything that I do that cause you to alter abnormal behavior, that's a positive. Because now, where you know that you're going through that metal detector every day, you're less likely to come into a building with something that could hurt other people. Also, it's a whole nother psychological effect. If you think about it, in our schools across, let's remove ourselves from Forsyth County, but just across this United States of America, teachers are under so many demands. Our teachers must be social workers, sometimes referees,
Thank you for understanding
sometimes nurses. They have to be a plethora of things other than teach a classroom. And so everything that affects you mentally hinders you from teaching students or giving them a message. So to me, we want to make that environment as conducive to learning as we can. And by putting metal detectors, by putting systems in place, that helps from a psychological perspective. It helps other students who may be having anxiety. If you think about schools where things have happened, we've had incidents happen here in our district.
Yes, sir.
And so while we may not be keeping score, the body is keeping score.
So true.
If you were to go back and talk to those kids at Mount Tabor who have since graduated, some of them have, and gone on to universities, they will tell you what they were doing that day that the incident took place at Mount Tabor.
That's that trauma. And we may not understand that it's happening, but it's doing something internal.
Day, the body is keeping score.
Yes.
Keeping score. And so that if you can remove that piece from it by creating something that assures not only the students, but your teachers, your staff, your administration, that, hey, this is a safe environment.
Yeah.
You know, there are so many faculty members across this district that if you were to have a one-on-one conversation with them, which we've had, they would tell you that they are afraid to go into the schools.
Wow.
They're afraid to go into the classroom and do the job that they do. They do it because some of them have to. Some of them go to other schools. I mean, if we're having a candid conversation, if you look at charter schools and private schools, there has been a boom.
And why is that, you think?
I mean, I have my opinion. I'm not an educator, but I have my opinion. I feel that, and I could be wrong, but this is my opinion. This is not Sheriff Kimbrough opinion. This is
your person.
This is Bobby's opinion. I think that in some incidents, people feel that certain schools are failing their students. You know, I know, and you may not can say this, but all schools are not created equal.
I'm 100% aware of that.
Even though they sit in the same district. So
definitely.
So as a parent, if I feel that my child is not being served how I feel he or she should be served, as a parent, I've got to do something to change that.
To advocate for your child. So I guess since we're in that vein and we're talking about schools and educators and the perception, when you work in a school that may have a negative perception just because of the community or the experiences that's taken place there, how do you dispel that myth, even with the positive press, the positive media, because it's hard to get people to want to come in? So what do you do to make people understand that your school is a safe place? It is a nurturing, supportive environment. Your kids are flourishing, even though all the metrics may not demonstrate that.
Here's what I would tell you. I've been a strong proponent of transparency.
We all are.
You come to a certain place in your life where you try to realize, I've seen more years than I'm going to see. So right now, at this place in my life or in your life, wherever you may be, there has to be that defining moment where you speak truth.
Yes.
And so what I'm saying to you is that as an educator, as an administrator, you know and I know that all schools are not created equal.
I agree.
And so if you know that truth, the question is, what are you doing about what you know? And so to me, I understand that administrators and certain people are in places. That's one thing I love about the sheriff's office, right? Is that I answer to the people and God. That means that I don't have to worry about nobody firing me.
That's good.
Right? I'll say the truth and I'll speak the truth. I answer to God every day, the people every day, and every 4 years, if they're not satisfied, they can say, hey, you fired.
Right.
But in that meantime, and between times, I'm going to speak the truth. So when I know something is wrong, or I know something is not right, whether it's black, white, Republican, or Democrat, I'm going to give you the truth, because the truth will stand the test of time, and the truth is truth no matter where you find it. So my question, going back to you, what do you do about the truth that you know?
So I think that comes with the advocacy, right? And the, standing up for what you know is right. And then we can't say that we want equity if equity is not just a word. It has to be done in action. And so it must be seen and visible in your daily work. So for me, that's why I'm having this podcast, Real Talk about Educational Transformation, so we can talk about things that critically impact some schools that may not have a voice. And I think all leaders and all educators may not feel supported to have a voice, or that their voice is going to be heard or honored. And I think also when you've been in a space where you've been so beaten down over so many years, you feel like it's just what we're due. And so finding that desire to be able to go back and put yourself out there again, sometimes it's hard for people because when I try to tell people your silence means your acceptance. But when you disagree, if you speak up and you ask for support and help, then you're bringing that to knowledge. You're bringing it to light because everybody don't understand your struggle. I've worked in schools that everybody can't walk in every day and be successful, but that's the gift that God has given me. It might not work in another space, but it does well in the spaces I've been assigned. But also, I'm deeply passionate about children. I'm deeply passionate about education, and I'm deeply passionate about preparing kids for life after the K-12 experience. Because if we don't do that, that's the purpose of education, right? That they can leave us and go and do something that changes their lives or that of their family. And I do think that with so many options, people kind of say, well, they're bad over there. And they may are just doing that off something they've heard, something they've read, something they've seen with no facts, and they truly don't know. And so take some time, walk into the building, come visit us, come sit in a classroom, have these critical conversations. You visit schools and you can give a true depiction of what you see in different places, right? You work with different administrators and you work in different classrooms and you've done mentoring all across the county. And you know kids that'll say, oh, they love me, they support me, or I'm not welcome there. And I think the honesty around that piece of people truly admitting their own biases and microaggressions, and that equity is not a word, but these are the things we gotta do. I need to be transparent, I need to advocate, and I need to fight for the rights of kids.
So I think, first of all, let me say this. You do a magnificent job here. Everywhere I go, I talk about the work that you do in the school that you administer.
Thank you, sir.
But my question is this, is that you have insider information as an administrator that every parent in the public doesn't have. So my question is that a lot of people know the truth, and you talk about how do we change that? That was the question.
Yes, sir.
You asked me, how do we change
How do we
that?
change?
How
Yeah.
do we change?
Yes.
And so I'm asking the question, a rhetorical question, how do you change? What are you willing to do for the change? Information, having knowledge, the question becomes, what are you willing to do? Because the change is not on me, the change is on you and all of us. This is not a
So that
me
means
thing.
the change is on us, it's not just on me.
Right, it's a we thing.
Yeah, it's a we, it's not a me.
It's not a me, it's
Yeah.
a we thing, right? And so all of us have a role to play in this thing of evolution. All of us have a change and transformation of the education system.
I agree.
But the question that I always ask, not just to you, but to the general public,
Yeah.
The change that you want, what are you willing to do for that change?
Oh, I can wholeheartedly agree to that.
Yeah.
I think even when we talk about community safety, right? Everybody wants to be safe, but what are we all doing to ensure the safety? Like, are we reporting things when we see it? Are we, back in the day, there used to be the community, they would have the signs in the yard. I can't remember, community watch. Yeah, and so people would watch the community and have those conversations around those pieces. They would report, it would see something, say something, But I think now people are more, it was more community then. We were more of a community. It wasn't just I was just Joanne's child and Larry's child. I was everybody's child. So we all worked together to make sure Thyais was safe, if that makes sense.
Right.
Where now it's this whole culture, that's my child, don't say anything to him, leave him alone. So I think that also, as a community, we've gone away from the village approach of raising and taking care of and supporting. And I think that we've all got to be open and transparent. I was having a conversation, and I said, as parents in elementary school, you can't get into a PTA building, right? Like the lines around the building, parents are crying to drop the kid off to kindergarten.
Mm-hmm.
High school, by middle school, they might be over to 6th grade.
Mm-hmm.
High school, you're struggling to get a parent in the building.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Even as a parent of a 21 to 23-year-old, reflectively, when they got to high school, you were teaching them responsibility. So you thought you were doing a good job by pulling back the reins to prepare them for the world. But in all actuality, I feel like you need more parental hands-on when they're in high school, because that's when so many things are coming at them with social media, this vaping thing, all kinds of crazy stuff that we did not have to encounter. And so I think that the village really made a difference in our schools, in our homes, as well as in our community, because you weren't just worried about your child, you were worried about all of the children.
I agree. I mean, everything you're saying is true and is relevant. I was just, as you were talking, I was reflecting back on myself in school. We didn't have SROs in school when I came through. And so, this era that we're into now where SROs are a necessity.
Yes, they
you
are.
You can't even talk about school unless you equate SROs into the equation. And so we're in a different space in our society right now. So, but I will tell you that I'm a firm believer that we must have safe schools.
Amen.
We
Oh,
must
I
have
agree
safe
with that.
schools, and we must have equity in our schools. The same amount of money that's placed in one school, you got to be able to place it somewhere else, because that creates a problem. You know, even down to how the lawn is kept.
I agree.
Even down to how the facilities are kept.
I agree.
And so, to me, those are some things that we've got to look at. And as a community, as taxpayers,
Yes, so true.
We have to voice our concerns. You know, my mother used to say, you know, what is it? The squeaky wheel gets the oil.
Amen.
Right?
But if
And
you quiet, you accept
right?
it.
So I think that's where we are, and we've got to educate one another.
Yes, and I think we've gone away from that. I think even with our children, we've kind of gone away from that, and we leave them to themselves because they have so many devices to entertain them. And so in schools, we're charged with teaching them standards, but kids are used to instant gratification from a device they get on their hand. They could be sitting in school with us, but talking to a friend across the world, right?
So true.
And so it's really a need for teachers to be strategic about planning and engaging. But I also agree, as a parent, you want to bring your child to a place that's clean, that smells good, that the lawn, it's appeasing. You don't want to bring your kid to a school, the lawn isn't kept, they got trash outside. But we understand the money follows the zip code as well. And so PTAs, parent-teacher organizations, community partnerships, like you're an amazing community partner. The schools that I've served have been very fortunate to have some amazing community partners that sow into the schools and sow into the children because you care and you want to put your money and your time and your energy where your mouth is. And I think that's representative is who you are as a leader.
I agree. I mean, everything you're saying is true. And, you know, all I have to do is compare that with is the era that I grew up in. And I look at schools now, you know, being in this space for the last 6 years with SROs, being in this space, understanding and learning more about the school system and how the inner workings takes place. And so I think that, you know, what you're saying is absolutely spot on, that we've got to mentor one another. We've got to be cognitive of what's really going on. Because at the end of the day, the greatest assets that we have are our children.
Amen. And they're amazing people.
And when you look across the district, or you look across any district, and I don't know the answer to this, but I always ask the question, how are our kids in certain districts pairing up to other kids in certain districts?
Right.
In
You're
other
comparing,
words,
yeah.
Comparing that. And so at the end of the day, I think there's a correlation between education, your success, where you eat, how you eat, where you live, all of those things. And so if you have a kid that is not being educated, what are you setting that kid up for? Or what is awaiting that kid? What alternatives did that kid have? And so to me, we've got to really take a hard look at how we're educating our kids here in this district. We've got to look at how are we and what are we producing in this district. Is there time to look at another model? Is there time to look at a lot of things that I see? And I'm not an educator, but I think that overall, there's room for improvement.
I think there's always room for improvement, but I think that we're always kind of analyzing and willing to grow. And I think that you share a lot of insight and feedback. So I do have a question kind of in the same vein.
Sure.
What is your ideal, vision of Winston-Salem? Like, if you could snap your fingers and to make this a euphoric space, educationally, safety, employment opportunities for people, what does that look like for you?
Wow. So, as I said earlier, I grew up in Winston-Salem. I remember the mothers and daughters on 4th Street. I remember the Heinz shoe store on 4th Street. I remember R.J. Reynolds, where the county building is now, and the new courthouse is. I remember all of those things. I remember Mr. Cartwright, Julian Gibson, which the elementary school is named after. I remember the Robert E. Lee Hotel. But what I will tell you is that while things have changed, some
Yes, sir.
things have remained the same.
Right.
There's still the 52 divide that we talk about.
What is that?
52 runs down the middle of the west, the east. It separates it. And there was always this
Can
thing.
I ask you a question about that?
Of course.
So what's the separation for? So if we have a bridge, like
Right.
we have right here,
So if
right?
this,
Go ahead.
exactly. So if this is 52, which
Mm-hmm.
runs north and south,
Yes, sir.
this sets the east and this sets the west, right? So if you look,
What's the difference between the east and the west?
I'm gonna explain it. So if you look, once you cross 52
Uh-huh.
or cross over 52 headed west, you can set out and mark a hospital every mile. You'll hit, which used to be Baptist, which is now Atrium. You'll hit Novant. You'll hit Clemens.
Yes.
You'll hit Davie Hospital. You won't hit not a one on the east.
On the east.
If you look at,
That's a disparity.
if you look at, as you said, the money follows the zip code.
Yes, sir.
Right? Well, if you take the 27012, that's the west. That's where the money is located.
It resides.
That's where it resides.
Yes, sir.
I like that.
That's where it resides.
That's where it resides at, right?
That's where it lives.
Now, you may have a pocket here on the east or the
Right.
north, right? But the bulk of it
Yes.
resides there. You could take the same house in East Winston and set that exact same house on the west side of 52, and that house probably just increased about $200,000.
Oh, wow.
And so when you talk about that, I mean,
And that's because of this one little
we're,
thing.
We're having a conversation. So if you look at Carver High School, which is considered in East Winston,
East Winston.
and you look at West Forsyth, which is considered, or you look at Reagan, which is considered west of 52, and you compare the resources. I mean, I don't know. I'm not working the school system. I doubt very seriously that they will be equal.
Right.
If you look at Atkins High School, which is right down the road,
Yes, sir.
which sets in the east, and you look at Carver, which sets in the east, I doubt very seriously the resources are the same. I doubt very seriously a lot of things we really zeroed it down. So I mean, you have to ask the question, you know, and I've always asked this, is this coincidental or is it by design? You tell me.
Yeah.
And so I have my opinion, which you didn't ask me for that, but you know, I have an opinion on it
You
because
get to share it.
I'm a product of East Winston,
Yes.
but I'm a product of this city.
Yes.
I'm a product of North Forsyth High School. So I've seen the good, the bad, the indifferent, and whatever. But what I will say overall, we're better than what we were 10 years ago.
Ah, that's awesome. That's to be
Yeah.
celebrated, right?
Of course.
That's a positive.
We're better than we were yesterday.
Yes.
And my hope is we're going to be better tomorrow than we are today. But the only way we're going to get there is that we have to be vocal and we have to be intentional.
Strategic and work
Yeah,
together.
And we have to be intentional and strategic, and we have to have correlations. We have to have collaborations with people that may not look like you, people that may
I
not
agree.
think like you, but people that want the truth and a better community. Because at the end of the day, we're better together.
So I want to tell you, I think that you and your team do a magnificent job of being advocates, but also being thought partners with schools and having conversations and sharing information and just being in the trenches, right? So when you know something is going on, you might pick up the phone and say, hey, I'm going to send extra help over to the school because this is what we've seen. If there's a crisis in a school, you will have someone from your team to show up. You go to bedsides of children, you go to, sites where children have been harmed. You walk alongside parents. And I think that being so personal and personable is what makes you different and unique. Because I'm sure that this isn't common for all sheriffs,
Or
all law enforcement officers.
You know what's interesting about that is that I think it's a curse and a blessing to me it's a blessing because I know the parents of the kids or the grandparents of the kids in school.
That's because you're from here,
That's
and so
because
you
I'm
have those
from here.
relationships.
And so, you know, as they say, 4 degrees separation.
Yes.
I'm only like 1 or 2 degrees separation. You could stop probably any one person and say, I may not know him, but I got a homeboy or a homegirl that know his people.
And everybody may not have that as a story in your position.
Right.
Yeah.
And so what that means is that I hold myself accountable and the people hold me accountable.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that's what wakes me up with that energy, is that I have to be a teller of the truth. Even when we wrong, I'll be the first to say we made a mistake that day, because people expect that from me. Because while I may be sitting at the sheriff today, whatever the future holds for me, I still got to walk out into this community and maintain my face, maintain my integrity, that people will say, you know what, he said what he said and he did it. And I know that if he said it, I didn't have to worry about him.
Yeah.
With
That's money in the bank.
That's money in the bank.
That's money in the
bank.
bank.
And so I try to walk like that, because it has taken us a long time to get to this place to where we have community credibility with partnerships like
that's
you.
good. Community credibility.
You got to have it.
But that comes from that transparency.
You got to have
and
it.
the authenticity that you show up as.
People don't trust what they can't see.
That was good.
Well, thank you.
I like that. Okay, you dropped some nuggets. Now I have another question.
Sure.
With all of the chaos in the world and society, and having the weight of safety and security of so many on your back, what do you do for self-care? How do you manage all of this?
You know, I was talking to one of my guys today. We have this conversation all the time. And this may be a little morbid, but it's how I feel. I've had a great life, done some things. So to me, my life is not about me right now. You know, I was coming down the hall and we were just running off at the mouth. And I said, I've come to this place where I didn't come here forever. I know I'm not going to be here forever, but I want to be able to change the game and change lives forever. And so
Your legacy.
Exactly. So I don't really care about Bobby that much. You know what I mean? I've had a great life. I've traveled the world. So my self-care, it ain't eating oatmeal every day, eating vegetables every day. My self-care is making sure I complete the job 2 or 3 times a week, go sit on my back porch, smoke a cigar, talk to my sons, talk to my grandkids, a dinner,
Family.
a dinner, a movie every now and then. That's my self-care, you know.
But that is actually self-care.
Well,
like, you don't have to be doing anything magnificent to just take care of you. But that's also probably the time that you get to reflect.
But I used to be on this exercise kick. You know, I was cycling, I was running.
Oh, I heard about that cycling class you host 6 a.m. in the morning.
Yeah,
nobody don't want to do that.
I know.
Yeah, nobody
so
wants to be cycling
I
at 6
resolved
a.m.
myself to the place that, you know what,
Eating cheesecake might be a lot easier than cycling.
I know it is.
I mean,
right?
don't you agree to that?
I do.
I mean, I think that's a good idea.
I think that God gonna take care of me as long as He need me here, and when He done with me, it's gonna be what it's gonna be.
So are you saying you're not hosting a cycling class anymore?
I don't know. Hey, listen,
You paused it.
I paused it.
Okay.
But you know what? I guess I got to get back in the game because I want to try to lose maybe 5 or 10 pounds off of my midsection.
Well, your drink of choice is Mountain Dew.
No. I have stopped drinking Mountain Dew.
You've stopped drinking Mountain Dew? I mean, how long? How long are you in recovery for, sir?
I haven't had a Mountain Dew in about 6 months.
Oh, my gosh. You're healed.
Well, I drink Pepsi.
Oh, so you
Sprite.
left Mountain Dew, now you went to Pepsi and Sprite.
Yeah,
Okay. You went to a different drink of choice.
To a different drink of choice. And I'm trying to drink more water.
Oh, great.
Yeah, I'm drinking more water.
Okay, how many glasses a day?
Well, I got a bottle of water that I set beside my nightstand. I set it there Sunday. It was there this morning when I finished. So
Isn't it like Wednesday?
Yeah, it is Wednesday.
1 bottle of water?
I'm saying, listen.
Uh-huh.
I'm saying that's what I have had at the house. You know, I drink water moving around the office. I'm not one of those guys that walks around with a gallon of water every day.
I didn't ask. That's not. You gave a story
Doc, I think-
about a
Doc, I
bottle
think-
of water
Doc, I think-
that's been sitting
Doc,
since
I
Sunday. So
feel-
we're trying to get a little clarity.
I feel uncomfortable. You actually,
Okay, I'm sorry.
them HIPAA questions.
Oh, HIPAA questions.
Them
I'm
HIPAA
sorry.
questions. You
Ooh,
violating
I'm
HIPAA now.
violating HIPAA. Let's
Violating
go
HIPAA.
back
You
to.
just-
Let's
yeah,
get back.
yeah.
Okay, I apologize.
That's all right.
Let me stay in my lane.
Yeah.
Okay, sir. So what is the most difficult calls you have to take, or what is the most difficult things of your job, parts of your job?
You know, last week I was talking to my lieutenant Thursday night, and I was telling him that I have seen 4 bodies this week, deceased bodies, and that was in a span of 4 days.
That's hard.
2 overdose, 2 suicides, and one of them, the child found the mother. And so seeing tragedy like that is very difficult. It's very difficult when I go to houses and I share with the people, give them my condolences and things of that nature. That's very difficult for me. But it's a part of what I do,
The job you do.
and I feel that I have to do it. But it's very difficult for me because those days are days that I don't sleep well that night because I'm a fixer. I'm a fixer. If someone has a problem,
I understand that.
my guys calling me Bobby Claus at work. You know, Santa Claus. They call me Bobby
I understand
Claus,
that
right?
over here. You know, we've experienced that
Yeah,
too,
you
sir.
know, they say you can't save them. Captain save them. They say you can't save everybody. But I adopt the attitude of the little boy on the side of the beach. But I gotta try to save them all.
That's right.
Yeah. So those are difficult days when you have to do death
That's hard.
notification. One of the most difficult things I've ever had to do, and I still see it in my head, was a young lady lost her life, and I had to go tell her mother, and her mother had no idea that her daughter had passed. She was thinking her daughter was on the way home. And then again, you know, I looked at it from, she is on the way home to a different place, a spiritual place.
So I said you don't have to be so descriptive because
Well,
that's
I
very
wasn't
hard for me. I
descriptive.
know, but what I'm saying
yeah.
is, like, I don't want to be on the podcast dropping tears
Well-
because that is the role that you sit in. And I'm also a fixer and like to save people, and I'm a
we have
problem
a lot in
solver
common.
and a solution seeker. I
Yeah.
agree. And so I couldn't imagine the weight that you carry, experiencing those things on a day-to-day basis,
Mm-hmm.
and the trauma, the anxiety, the possible, you know, health issues that could cause if you're not very strategic about managing your self-care and maybe talking to a therapist or like.
Are you recommending I talk to a therapist?
Yeah, I recommend you talk to a therapist because that seems like a lot to carry. I'm all about mental health. I think we, as people of color, we believe we can pray it away or do other things to get the problems away. But if we don't intentionally be strategic about problem solving and working through them, then they have a way to show up again in our lives. And so I believe very strongly in that. And you were talking about the adverse childhood experiences that children experience and the trauma of seeing all of these things, because some kids live in these environments every single day. And then they come into school with someone trying to dictate to them how to be, and not being very understanding or empathetic about their previous experiences. And I think that's also a part about the transparency and advocacy we must do for our kids, because we have to stand in the gap for them when often no one else does.
Yeah, I'm a strong proponent of therapy and therapists, right? Just not for me.
Hey!
Yeah.
Okay, people.
So, you know,
I'm not saying you got to go to therapy.
yeah. I mean, I don't think a therapist would do me any good at my age, right? And
Well, sir, you act like you're 110.
well, I'm not 110, but what I'm saying is that I believe, for those that are watching, I believe in therapy and I believe in talking to a therapist, just not for me.
So what do you think your faith-based partners, because we have amazing faith-based partners, and I know you do too.
My faith is
at
what
the
sustains me, Doc.
Right, at the sheriff's office.
So we have chaplains at the sheriff's office. Every Monday morning, they will tell you, we begin every Monday morning with prayer. At 9 o'clock, at 0900, the first thing that we do at the Forsyth County Sheriff's Office is we pray.
That's phenomenal.
We've been doing that for 6 years, day one.
That's phenomenal.
It's my faith that brought me this far. It's my faith that got me through some dark nights. And so that is my therapy. in my quiet time, if I go sit in the basement in the dark, there are some things in darkness that you can see that you can't see in light. So that is my therapy. So my faith is what I rely on every day.
So now that we're talking about faith and faith-based partners,
Sure.
what do you think their impact is, or their roles
In
should be? In schools.
Some people are going to disagree, and that's fine, right? Whatever your faith or whatever your belief is, whoever you pray to, I think that it has a place in school, right? When I went through Quantico, through the FBI Academy, in Quantico, Virginia, there is a room, and it doesn't have a name, right? But it's a room where you can go and pull the curtain and pray to whoever you choose to pray to.
Right.
And so to me, I think in the school, there should be a space or a moment where we begin that day. Because at the end of the day, if my money's saying God we trust.
Money says.
Oh yeah, and God we trust on
and
a dollar
God we
bill.
trust on every dollar.
On every dollar.
Every dollar.
Every dollar. So if our money's saying God we
Right.
trust, right? And this whole country is built on faith and religion.
That it is.
Then why would I remove it from one of the most powerful institutions in our society?
That touches almost everybody.
That touches everybody. Make
Yeah.
it make sense.
Yeah.
And so to me, I think it has a place in the schools. And until we stand up and demand some things, right? If you don't stand for something, you fall for anything. And that's what's happening here, there, and everywhere. So I'm a strong proponent of, faith in our schools.
I agree. I think it has a place. And we have some amazing faith-based partners that we couldn't do a
course,
lot of
of
things
course, of
if they
course.
weren't present to support us and the
course.
students. From food pantries, to clothing closets, to feminine care products. I mean, it's just really a blessing to have people to pour into your students that way. So, Sheriff, if you had one question to ask me, because I know you dying to ask a question, what would your question be?
So, I've been pondering this question since we started this conversation.
How you been pondering this question and I'm asking the question?
No, I've been pondering ever since you said it was your show.
Oh,
And
so since it's my show,
Right? No.
you feel like you get to ask me questions?
No.
Okay.
When you said it was your show and
I'm
you
listening.
get to ask the question,
Yes, sir.
my mind took me to, I got a question for her.
What's the question?
And maybe this chemistry, in my mind, I spoke it, and so you giving me a chance
Okay,
to
that's
do
it. ESP.
Yeah, ESP. So
Gotcha.
here we go.
Uh-huh.
So my question to you is, all this information that you know,
Yes, sir.
the good, the bad, and even the ugly. My question to you is, what are you going to do with it? Because so much is given, much is required.
That's a good question.
So are you
right?
going to just sit on it, or are you going to stand up and speak on it, or you just going to remain silent and co-sign?
Oh,
But you don't have to answer that question.
I
You don't
think
have
I want to.
I know you don't.
Okay, but no, I
You want
do.
to?
I want to ask. Yeah. I don't understand the be silent and co-sign thing. I'm learning to be more silent and to be more reflective about what I say, how I say, and when I say it. However, advocacy is what I do. I believe when things aren't right, that we are given a job to advocate for people who don't have a voice. And I've been placed in places and positions that my students or the communities that I serve often don't have a voice, and they don't know advocacy exists. And so I feel like that's what I have to do for them. I think that this idea about this real talk about educational transformation was birthed out of me needing some intellectual energy. And so it gives me the opportunity to have conversations with some amazing people that I've met along the way and that are coming into my path. And hopefully it'll lead me to be able to share more with people, because I do believe that my experiences over time have led me to this place and I have a lot to share. But I'm also a person who believes in learning and growing. And I think you've done a great job being a mentor for me and providing insight and feedback and helping me navigate spaces new to me in this arena. But I do believe as leaders, some of us feel that we must know all things. And I believe in distributive leadership. I don't have to be the smartest person in the room, but I need to be smart enough to have people around me who have gifts and talents in areas that I don't. Because then us working together can really produce some amazing things. And I've been very fortunate. God has truly blessed me along the way to work in spaces with some really amazing people who make the work that I do doable and easier. And I'm grateful for that.
So in all fairness,
Did I answer your question?
no.
Yes, I did.
No, you didn't. You danced. In all fairness, I want to say this, right? You are a believer. I know that wholeheartedly. I've had conversations with you. You was raised like that. I know that, right?
My mother's a pastor.
I know that. I know that. I know that.
Praying mom.
Praying mama. I'm going somewhere. I'm going somewhere. Mm-hmm. And so God has placed you here. Your talents, you could have been anywhere in the world.
But you're here.
But you're here. And so he placed you here at Carver. Me and you had this conversation before.
We have.
He placed you here at Carver for a reason.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And if he placed you here for a reason, my question, follow-up question, right?
I gave you the opportunity to ask me a question, singular. But go
Right.
ahead.
No,
Look,
no, no.
I'm going to write it down.
No,
but
it's
I'm
your
gonna
show. It's your
but
show.
ask me the question.
I
I'm
don't
going to write
think
it
it's fair,
down.
but it's your show.
Okay.
So the question is this. You here for a reason.
What I'm going to do with it?
God brought you here for a time and a space. And I'm saying to you is, right, there is no time to be silent in this space you're in. There is no time to pick and choose when to say what is wrong. When it's wrong, that's the time to address it.
Yes, sir.
Because every day brings a new wrong.
Every day. But every day also brings a new right.
But if you don't address the wrong of yesterday, you're just piling on wrongs.
Oh, I do get that. That's good.
And then you explode.
Yeah. Yes, sir. Okay.
And I don't know why you exploding.
Yes,
but
sir.
Yeah, but go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay, so focus. Go ahead and play in the grass,
Go in
the
the
dirt, some more. So let me ask you this question. What is your parting thing that you want to leave? You talked earlier about legacy and the legacy that you would like to leave. What is the legacy, and make it short and sweet.
Sure.
What is the legacy that you want people to remember? Not Sheriff Bobby Kimbrough, but Bobby Kimbrough by. Like, what did he stand for?
I'm going to make this short, and I'm going to make it simple. Every day, I realize that I've seen more than I'm going to see. Every day, I realize that one day, like milk, I will expire. And so my thing right now is when I'm gone and people remember me, or they may see my name somewhere or see my headstone, I want them to say that between the hyphen, he made a difference, he impacted people, and he changed lives. That's the legacy that I want to leave. That when Mo talking to his son and he said, you know, at Kimbrough, he gave it to me straight. You know, that's the legacy I want to leave, that I impacted lives and I changed lives forever. That's it.
That's wonderful. I appreciate you spending time with me today
of course.
on To The Max podcast. Is there any projects that you're currently working on or any social media that you would like to share with our viewers where they can follow you or be in support of?
First of all, Doc, I want to thank you for inviting me. You're an amazing human being. I thank you for what you do in this community, what you do in this school. And anytime you need the sheriff's office or anything that we can do, we're grateful to be a part of it. But you could follow me on Facebook at Bobby Kimbrough. We also have several projects, the Foundation 34. But
What does the Foundation 34 do?
Foundation 34 is a foundation that we have that help the community. But at the end of the day, I want you all to let's change the narrative here in our school system and in our county.
Awesome.
Let's do that.
Awesome. Thank you so much for following me at EDUN to the max. I appreciate you. As always, go be great because you already are. Mwah. Thank you.